Morning light sometimes reaches a person without bringing any real sense of arrival. A faint glow touches the room, yet something inside remains anchored. The chest feels weighted, the limbs seem unwilling, and a hush settles over every intention. It is not simple tiredness, nor apathy, nor the ordinary reluctance to begin another day. It is a pull that seems to rise from a place beneath thought, a quiet signal emerging from the deeper strata of the self. Carl Jung often emphasized that such moments should not be dismissed as personal failure. According to him, the human organism carries ancient intelligence, and this intelligence expresses itself through subtle impulses long before the conscious mind understands their significance. When your inner world withdraws its vitality, it is not deserting you. It is communicating. Many people awaken with a sense of disconnect. Tasks once familiar lose their texture. Responsibilities feel strangely distant. Even simple motions require effort. You might label this lack of drive, but Jung would urge a different interpretation. He believed the psyche behaves like a living entity, adjusting itself whenever authenticity is threatened. When your outer life demands attitudes or performances that contradict your truth, the inner system instinctively reduces its outward engagement. Not as punishment, but as protection. Civilization glorifies constant output. Society praises the perpetual achiever, the individual who never hesitates, never pauses, never admits the need for quiet. Yet human nature does not follow industrial tempo. The psyche shifts according to meaning, not deadlines. When meaning weakens, the psyche hesitates. When an inner boundary is crossed, the psyche resists. That resistance often arrives as heaviness. Picture a person moving through a world built on speed. Days blur together, emotions go unexamined, inner signals drown beneath obligations. Eventually, the deeper layers of the self begin reclaiming energy from routines that no longer support psychological integrity. This reclamation is felt as inertia. Muscles grow still. Thoughts slow. Motivation fades. The external world sees stagnation. The internal world sees recalibration. Jung compared the psyche to an environment with its own climate. When conditions grow unsustainable, storms form, winds shift, and rainfall restores balance. He believed the same thing happens within a person. The heaviness that comes over you is not random. It is the internal climate shifting in response to unseen tension. Something inside senses misalignment even before you can name it. There are mornings when the silence around you seems louder than anything outside. A faint voice within whispers that rising too quickly would break something fragile. That whisper is not laziness. It is instinct. It is the soul's insistence that you stop long enough to feel what has been ignored. Many individuals spend years running from inner signals, forcing their bodies through motions that no longer match their psychological direction. Eventually the body steps in and says no. This refusal is not dramatic. It is quiet. Stillness appears. A yearning for rest deepens. Tasks lose flavor. Even small decisions feel heavy. According to Jung, this is often the earliest moment of inner reorganization. The self is preparing to shift, preparing to drop outdated identities, preparing to reshape its path. Imagine an inner landscape undergoing subtle transformation. Structures built long ago begin to loosen. Old convictions fade. Hidden emotions stir. A new pattern takes form beneath conscious awareness. During this period, the body demands slowness because the deeper self requires space. A person lying in bed, feeling weight pressed gently upon them, may actually be standing at the threshold of renewal. You are not collapsing. You are being summoned inward. The urge to remain still is the psyche's way of drawing your attention back to what truly matters, guiding you toward honesty, guiding you toward the next shape your life is ready to take. There are days when your body feels anchored to the mattress as if gravity has doubled. The world waits beyond your door, yet something inside refuses to follow the rhythm that others consider normal. This refusal is quiet but unwavering, and Jung believed such moments carry profound significance. To him, this weighted stillness signals that the outer structure of your life has drifted too far from the truth within you. People frequently believe they must push through these sensations. They judge themselves, blame their discipline, criticize their willpower. But the psyche does not respond to force the way a machine does. It responds to authenticity. When authenticity weakens, the psyche withdraws. This withdrawal feels like heaviness. It isn't a collapse of capability. It is the soul gathering its strength away from obligations that no longer nourish you. Energy folds inward, not out of weakness, but because something concealed requires attention. Something unfinished. Something unsaid. Something unresolved. Jung often described the inner world as an ancient creature, sensitive to shifts long before consciousness notices them. This inner presence recognizes the end of a chapter before the mind admits it. It senses emotional weather patterns as they form. It knows when you have outgrown an identity you still attempt to carry, and when that identity becomes too small, the soul withholds its energy so you can no longer maintain the disguise. This withdrawal is not sabotage. It is guidance. When you lie awake feeling the air press against your ribs, when standing feels like lifting stone, when simple actions lose meaning, the deeper layers of your psyche are signaling that your current direction no longer aligns with your internal compass. The stillness you feel is a kind of stop sign, urging you to pause before continuing down a road that cannot support your growth. Modern life rarely allows such pausing. Society rewards urgency, expects constant demonstration of capability, and treats rest as an inconvenience. Under this pressure, people suppress inner signals until the body intervenes. Jung argued that this intervention is natural. A system designed to preserve psychological integrity cannot sustain a performance that contradicts the self. When the cost becomes too high, the body slows everything down so your truth can surface. Inside this pause, old emotional material begins rising. Memories, impressions, forgotten tensions, all of it floats upward from distant corners of the psyche. You may not consciously be thinking of them, yet they influence your entire state. Unspoken grief, long-ignored frustration, abandoned dreams, relationships that drained your vitality. These elements sit in the shadows waiting for the right moment to be acknowledged. The heaviness you feel is the psyche insisting that this moment has arrived. Jung taught that in these quiet periods, the unconscious rearranges itself. Energy that was spent maintaining appearances begins reorganizing. Emotional fragments start forming coherent shapes. Hidden truths prepare to surface. What looks like inactivity is actually deep internal restructuring. Imagine standing inside a forest in midwinter. Branches appear lifeless. Soil seems barren. Yet beneath the frost, roots strengthen and seeds gather force. The cold is not death. It is preparation. In the same way, when your body resists movement, a similar preparation unfolds within you. The psyche uses stillness as a workshop. It repairs fractures, releases outdated attachments, and adjusts your inner direction. This work requires silence because noise disrupts clarity. Fast movement disrupts integration. Pressure disrupts transformation. So the body holds you still. It refuses to lend strength to actions that no longer serve your evolution. It brings your attention inward so you cannot escape into distraction. It creates a space where truth can rise without interference. You may mistake this process for failure, but Jung would argue it is the earliest sign of renewal. The desire to lie down is not resignation. It is the beginning of honesty. The old self loosens. The new self draws near. And in this quiet transition, your soul asks for time, for gentleness, for space to breathe. A person may open their eyes and sense a strange quietness inside, a quietness that feels heavier than blankets and deeper than fatigue. Thoughts move slowly, as though wading through thick air, and the familiar urge to begin the day remains missing. Jung viewed these moments not as defects, but as psychological signals. When the conscious mind refuses to recognize inner conflict, the body expresses it through stillness. Many individuals believe that motivation simply disappears at random. They assume that discipline falters without cause. Yet the psyche rarely acts without reason. According to Jung, every shift in energy reflects a deeper movement within the unconscious, and the unconscious speaks through bodily impulses long before those impulses become understandable. The urge to remain motionless is one of those signals. It often arises when the life you are living no longer reflects the truth you carry inside. You may continue routines out of habit, maintain responsibilities out of expectation, or uphold roles you no longer feel connected to. Beneath these outer patterns, however, the inner world begins noticing the mismatch. When the gap becomes too large, the psyche reclaims its power from activities that drain rather than nourish. This withdrawal produces heaviness. Muscles resist movement. Emotions flatten. The entire system conserves strength because the energy is needed elsewhere, specifically for reorganization. One of Jung's most enduring observations was that humans undergo internal seasons, much like landscapes shaped by weather. When a psychological season ends, external behavior does not always change immediately. Instead, the first sign is often a lack of momentum. Something that once propelled you forward grows quiet. Something that once felt natural begins feeling forced. Something inside signals that continuation without reflection would create harm. This signal is not loud. It's subtle. A faint discomfort rises when you attempt to follow old habits. Activities that once energized you lose color. Emotional reactions become muted. Even simple decisions feel weighty, as though deeper meaning hides beneath them. During such times, the psyche turns inward and begins shedding layers. Outdated beliefs loosen. Unresolved emotions rise. Hidden tensions surface. The process is not visible externally, yet internally, the unconscious is sorting through years of accumulated material. Imagine a room filled with old possessions, items stacked in corners, objects forgotten on shelves. Over time, the room becomes cluttered, and movement grows difficult. Before new furniture can be placed, the old must be removed. The psyche works in the same way. When inner space becomes crowded with outdated identities and emotional residue, your system slows to create room for clearing. This clearing requires silence. It requires stillness. It requires the very reduction of outward engagement that modern society discourages. But Jung insisted that without this retreat, transformation cannot occur. The desire to lie down is not the problem. It is the portal. As the psyche sifts through buried material, the conscious mind often feels confused. You might not understand why energy disappeared or why certain emotions rise unexpectedly. Yet confusion is part of the process. Confusion means old frameworks are dissolving. It means new understanding is forming beneath awareness. In these quiet hours, memories may drift upward without warning. Feelings you thought you had forgotten may tug at your attention. Thoughts wander to moments that shaped you long ago. Such mental activity is not random. It reflects the unconscious bringing forward pieces of your story that require acknowledgement before the next chapter can unfold. Jung believed that this resurfacing is essential. Unaddressed experiences consume vitality. When they finally emerge, the psyche attempts to integrate them, and integration demands rest. Your body senses the workload and shifts into a slower rhythm so the inner restructuring can proceed without disruption. This is why forcing movement during these periods often leads to deeper exhaustion. You are not simply tired. You are undergoing inner repair. The stillness acts as a container, holding you in place while the unconscious rewires old patterns, heals fractures, and strengthens the foundations of your identity. You may not realize it yet, but this inward movement marks the beginning of expansion. Something within you has recognized the need for renewal, and the first step of that renewal is silence. The body honors this need before the mind understands it. There comes a moment when the heaviness that once held you still begins to loosen. It doesn't vanish suddenly, nor does it erupt into sudden clarity. It softens. Something subtle shifts within your chest, a warmth that signals the return of inner movement. Jung believed that this gentle change reveals that the unconscious has completed its work beneath the surface. Energy reappears not as urgency, but as steadiness. Thoughts feel clearer. Emotions feel less tangled. Choices that once seemed overwhelming appear manageable again. You sense that something inside has settled, a quiet understanding, a new alignment slowly forming. This rebalance is the result of the stillness you once resisted. The body, which anchored you so firmly, now releases its grip because the deeper layers of the psyche have restored their rhythm. What once felt like weight was actually a shield, protecting you while your inner world reorganized itself. Jung emphasized that transformation begins where silence meets truth, and your silence has carried you through a vital reconstruction. You may notice that certain paths no longer call to you. Some obligations feel lighter, others feel unnecessary. The soul has shed its old skin. It no longer supports what undermines your authenticity. This clarity is not imposed by force. It emerges from alignment. You rise not because you should, but because you are ready. You were never failing. You were healing. The desire to lie down was the psyche's way of guiding you toward a truer version of yourself, one built on honesty, not expectation. And now, as your inner landscape stabilizes, you stand at the threshold of a new beginning shaped from the quiet strength you found in stillness. If this message resonated with you, Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share your own reflection or personal experience connected to this theme. Your insight may offer guidance to someone who needs it.